Hey everybody, welcome to D Bronx Podcast. My name is Austin. I'm joined here with Mr. Kevin. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing well. Good to hear your voice, Austin.
Good to hear yours as well. We did take a little bit of a bye week, which we lined up perfectly with the Denver Broncos bye week. But of course, leading into that bye week, we did come away with a divisional victory over the Oakland Raiders, 16-10. Obviously, you feel good anytime you beat a divisional opponent, especially one that had previously looked pretty good. They're not looking uh, nearly as good anymore. Lost Derek Carr in that game. But just just some quick takeaways from that game. What do you have for us, Kevin?
Listen, boy, it generally feels euphoric when you beat the Raiders.
Yes,
Although the Raiders haven't, when I think Raiders, I think 70s, 80s Raiders. I mean, for the
a little
last
bit
20,
different.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a little different. It's really become a poor franchise. But obviously, coming off last year, 12-4 season, the Raiders really beat us badly, at least one game last year.
yeah, they
Um,
did.
and a lot of
Well, we
people,
beat them the last game of the season last year, but they did beat us bad when it
correct.
mattered.
But it was like empty calories for me. I was just wildly unsatisfied with that game. I mean, listen, we could have lost that game if it wasn't for Simmons' pick. At the end
Yeah,
of the game, we could have lost 17-16. I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row where I've been disappointed with our offensive production.
yeah.
Hopefully, we will have figured some of that out during the bye week. But big picture, we finished the first quarter of the season 3-1,
That's a good
and
number.
that's a good number at this point. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good number. I'm with you on that. Obviously, satisfied with a W because the W is what really matters. But aside from that second drive, our offense looked very good on that second drive of the game. Culminated with that ridiculous one-handed catch by
Oh yeah.
AJ Derby for the touchdown. What a beautiful catch that was. Um, but second, this is the one week that I thought Simeon actually looked bad. That I thought Simeon did not look good. Against the Bills, he looked average. I know he threw the two interceptions against the Bills, but I thought one of them was a fluke, and then the other one was just making a bad decision at a bad time. Um, it's the first week that I thought Simeon actually he looked scared. I mean, to be honest with you, he looked like he was panicking a lot. Almost looked like Paxton Lynch did the games that he started last year, where if the first read wasn't there, then he'd almost start to scramble around a lot.
Hmm.
And I thought it was uncharacteristic of Simeon because everyone knows he's that cool, calm, collected guy. It looked very uncharacteristic of him. Maybe a week of film watching Khalil Mack got into his head. I don't know. Um, but uh, but I thought he looked uncharacteristically bad this week. The running game still looked good. C.J. Anderson and Jamal Charles still looked good. Um, but Simeon did not look good. Uh, and I don't think that's gonna be a trend. I think it's the outlier. I think he'll bounce back, but he did not look good in this game. Defense obviously still looks good. I mean, we're talking about how if it weren't for that Simmons pick, then we may have lost that game. But you still got to think at that point we'd still only given up 10 points against most of the time it was Derek Carr and Marshawn Lynch and Amari Cooper and those guys, an offense that looked great all of last year and great the first 2 weeks of this season. Um, so I think our defense still looked elite, especially against the run. Only gave up 12 yards to Marshawn Lynch. Gave up virtually nothing against Amari Cooper. Um, but for some reason, Simeon didn't look good. And I think he's got to bounce back from that. That was a weak secondary. I think right now, Sanders and Thomas are being blanketed. They're double and triple teamed on almost every play right now. I think that's part of why our running game was looking so good. Not entirely why, but I think that's part of why our running game's looking so good. At some point, if our running game continues like it has been, they'll have to put more, put a safety up in the box, which I think will help open things up a little bit more in the passing game. So that's kind of my main takeaways from that game. Uh,
Yeah, I would say, as far as Simeon goes, uh, first two games, he looked like an NFL starter. I mean, perhaps a good
Pro
NFL
Bowler.
starter.
Yeah, I thought
Uh,
first two games.
last two games, he looked like a backup quarterback who was rushed into service because the
Yeah.
starter went down. And I'm not quite as charitable with him in the Buffalo game, but he did look better against Buffalo than he did against Oakland. I mean, I would say, look, I'm in the wait and see mode with Simeon still and this offense. I mean, it is first year offensive coordinator. It's going to take him a little while. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many weapons on offense. I mean, this offense is tailor-made for a quarterback. You've got one of the best running attacks in the NFL, which generally speaking sets up play action, takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback, and you've got two elite wide receivers who are being underutilized at this point, whether it's scheme or Simeon or the defense or whatever. But these guys are being underutilized, both Emmanuel and Demarius. And and by the way, just as speaking of our passing game, AJ Derby, you mentioned that unbelievable catch. I mean, not only did he haul it in with one hand, he just continued to run with one hand
Yeah,
on
he
the ball.
just
It was
he
like
never cradled it. Never
the
cradled it even.
coolest play ever. But so he's got 8 catches this year for 114 yards, which is a bit more than Virgil Green and a lot more than Jeff Hewerman. So we'll see. Maybe he is our pass catching tight end.
Maybe the third guy in that offense. I mean, Benny Fowler looked good the first couple weeks, but
Yep.
uh, maybe AJ Derby becomes that third, target in this offense
I
that'll
know.
maybe
Yeah.
open up. Now here's why I'm a little bit more. Here's a big reason why I'm a little bit more charitable with Simeon in the Buffalo game is
Mhm.
because first of all, he looked great the first two games. Number one, number two, Buffalo is an elite pass defense, and they've showed that almost every week, almost every game of this season. They're a very 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 good defense, especially in the pass defense. The reason I get so critical about Simeon in the Oakland game is because Oakland's been a bad defense. They've been a bad pass defense, bad secondary. So I was a little bit more understanding against the Buffalo Bills because the Buffalo Bills have this year been one of the best pass defenses in the league, whereas Oakland has not been even close to that. So that's why I think I gave him a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt with Buffalo because he looked great in the first two games and Buffalo's such a good pass defense, but against Oakland, that's a bad pass defense that we should have taken advantage of. Now, again, we ended up winning the game, uh, so no harm, no foul, essentially. But we do want to definitely see more production. And speaking of tight ends, Jake Butt is almost ready to hit the practice field. I don't know if you heard that or not, but both Jake Butt and Shane Ray are getting very close to hitting the practice field.
And by the way, you can call me Mr. Statistician, but I think you might be overranking the Buffalo Bills
I might be
passing.
underrating them because this past week against Cincinnati was an outlier.
They
Cincinnati tore them apart,
in
but that
five
was an outlier.
in 5 games, they are the 23rd.
What were they? What were they? What were they? Were they in the first four games?
Right now, they're at 23. They've given up 235 yards per game. Oh, hold on. How do they rank this?
Okay, yeah. See, you have to. See stats. You got to know what they're going by
It's
because
yards per game.
they have a
Yards per game.
lot of turnovers. How many
Yeah.
turnovers do they have? Because Simeon put up plenty of yards against them. How many turnovers do they have?
Buffalo has 8 interceptions, which is
There you go.
probably in the top 10. I mean, there's other teams with more, but that's high. But they give up a lot of yards. For
And
at least
Simeon threw for a lot of yards against them. I'm not talking about yards. Simeon looked bad because of the interceptions, not because he didn't throw for yards.
yeah.
He
Well,
threw for
anyway,
yards. He threw
all
for
right.
more than their average yards wise. I'm talking because they've been taking the ball away. That's why we lost that game because they took the ball away. Not
Yeah.
because we couldn't move. Not because we couldn't move the ball. And again, the game against Cincinnati was a little bit of an outlier. Cincinnati lit them up yards wise, as well as touchdowns wise. Um, But moving on from that, um,
Real
uh,
quick, you mentioned the two guys
go ahead.
back. So yeah, Jake Butt, I don't think is going to get much action this year. Although it's good to see him back on the field. I think we're pretty stable at tight end. I just would be surprised, barring injury, to one of our top three if they do much with Butt this year. But hopefully
Yeah,
next year we'll see a lot more with him. Obviously, a different story with Shane
Shane Ray.
Ray. I mean, this is.
Yeah,
I mean, adding him to this defense, and I mean, it's just
so
going to
there's
be,
already elite defense. I mean,
and he's going to be
man.
primed and ready to go.
Yeah,
Should be in great shape, and of course, his first game back will be against his hometown team in Kansas City. And
yep.
by
We need him for that game too.
and just I want to throw this out there. I mean, we're 5 games, or let's see, 5 weeks into the season. Of course, one of those weeks was a bye week, but
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever remembered a Broncos team at week 5 with no injuries. We have 0 injuries. No one's even on the injury report.
Other than Shane Ray and Jake,
Right, but yeah, but those guys were
but
injured
no, I know what you
before the
mean. I know what you
season.
mean. Like in the season, guys who played
Yeah,
in the season, and yeah, no, I totally get that. Isn't that unbelievable? They got the grace of God on their side or something this year, at least in the injury front. That is unbelievable. I didn't even know that stat. I didn't even know
no
that was.
injuries. I mean, what a great sign is that one guy is even nicked up. Like no one's even getting taped. No one's hitting the hot tub. No one's getting a rub down. It's like, hey, I'm fine. Yeah, it's fine. Let's go.
Hey, we don't. Hey, trainer, Greek, take the week off, huh?
Hey,
Just take
wait,
the week off.
do you need an? Would you like a couple aspirin? No, I'm serious. I'm good.
That is good. That is such a good. That is such a good tidbit there. I didn't know that we had 0 injuries on the injury report. I didn't even check the injury report
There's
this
not
week.
even a
So
guy who's probable, or questionable. It's just like
everybody is.
we're good.
We're good. That's a great thing. And like you said, getting Shane Ray back on that defense and against Kansas City, man, Kansas City's been tearing everyone apart. So we need as much as we can get against Kansas City in this division. Um, that's a scary game, but that's a matchup for a future podcast and a future game. Um, I was looking at I don't know, you've probably seen this stat already, but I just cannot get enough of this stat and this run defense. Melvin Gordon, Ezekiel Elliott, LaShawn McCoy, Marshawn Lynch, a total of 95 yards given up against those guys with 0 touchdowns. Can you believe this run defense?
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm just so pulling for our offense, man. We've got
Yeah.
such a tremendous defense, and we've got the running offense. Real quick, just statistics on the offensive side, and I agree. The defense only giving up 50 yards a game on average, pretty
Oh man.
crazy. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, pick your poison. What's the offensive? I mean, the offensive coordinator is like that's a tough job when you're going against Denver. It's like, all right, well, look, we can't run. I mean, why? I mean, seriously, why even put it in the playbook? Let's just throw against the no-fly zone. Why don't we do that? I mean, so
Throw against the no-fly zone.
and then
Man,
like
what a great game plan that Joe Woods has going into the season about, okay, we know what we have in the secondary. Let's just do everything to stop the run and make them throw on us.
I know, yeah,
What a great, I love it.
Joe
I love
Woods
it.
really doing a good job so far. But on the offensive side, so it's possible that we have 3 starting caliber running backs, right? C.J. Anderson is averaging 4.5 yards a carry.
Yep.
Even better than that,
Jamal Charles.
Devontae
Oh,
Booker is
go ahead.
averaging 4.7 yards a carry. Now it's only 14 carries,
Yeah,
but
it's not very many carries yet, but yeah, we'll take it.
but it's not 2.7, it's 4.7, and Jamal Charles 5.3. His career average is
Yeah.
5.5. The guy's 30 years old. He's lost just a tiny bit, but he's still better
Not
than
even that
almost.
much though. It doesn't even seem like he's lost. I mean, when you see, there was one run in this Oakland game where he just one cut burst through the line. I was like, this dude has still got it.
That guy is
Like,
so slippery, so slippery, so
oh, I
smart.
love it. It
I,
was like this little crease that he jump cutted through and then just took off. And
that guy's
he
the
he,
Albert.
he did get He did get
Albert
tackled by
Einstein.
the last guy, but man,
But
go
he
ahead.
is like the Albert Einstein of running backs. He's so smart and,
Yeah,
instinctive.
yeah.
The guy is just a genius running the football. How do you continue to get 5.3, 5.5 year after year after year? It's incredible what that guy has done.
Yeah, he is a guy that, I mean, God forbid anything happens to CJ Anderson, but he's a guy that you still feel comfortable with if something were to happen to CJ Anderson. Um, even more, and I was talking to Ian, off the air, and we were talking about this past week against Oakland. It looked like perception wise, Jamal Charles is a hot hand. Let's keep giving Jamal Charles the ball. And even though it appeared that way, CJ Anderson still had over 90 yards.
Yeah.
It's like when the guy that you don't perceive as the hot hand still gets 90 yards, that is something special in the running game.
There's no question about it. So, we can stop
Number
the
three,
run.
number three so far this year in the running game. Um, so wow, it's what a turnaround! What a turnaround we've had from last year to this year
On both
in terms of
sides.
on both sides, running the ball on both sides,
And listen,
defensively and
you know what they say when you get into cold weather football, you get into December, January,
you want to run the ball and stop the run.
playoff time, you want to be able to run the ball, control that clock, and that's exactly what this team is built to do.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch. But let's. I mean, we've talked a lot about Oakland's fallen off the table a little bit. I think because of that car injury. I think they probably, or at least they very well could have won this week, had Carr been able to play. Um, but they've fallen off. Obviously, they've lost three in a row. So Kansas City's the top of the division. We gotta play well against them in the head-to-head matchups. But this week we're playing an 0-5 and a surprisingly 0-5 team, in the New York Giants. I think they lost 5 games all of last year. They're 11-5 this year. Now they're 0-5. So it's kind of a crazy turnaround. And you hate to say it. I certainly don't wish this on anybody, but they've lost both Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham Jr. to season-ending injuries, in 1 week, and Dwayne Harris, which is another one of their wide receivers. So how can they even try to attack us this week?
Well, well, you're right. And by the way, just wanted to mention this. Here's a real statistical anomaly. Peyton Manning, who is retired, of course, has tied Eli Manning in wins this season. You know, and he, I mean,
Oh my goodness.
yep, both at zero. But
The
yeah, so
Mannings have a tied number of wins this year.
never wins. But and by the way, just as a side note, did you see any of the coverage of the ceremony in Indianapolis where they retired? They built the statue for Peyton Manning, and they did the whole
What a
ceremony.
great what a great thing.
I tell you what, I admire that guy so much, man.
Oh, I do
Uh,
too. I love that guy.
so yeah,
We were lucky to have him for 4 years.
I know Giants are definitely hurting. They don't have a passing attack. They don't have a rushing attack. I think their defense is reasonably stout, but they're going to be on the
Defense is
road.
good, yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean, are they a desperate team that's going to scratch and claw for a victory, or are they a team that is sort of already started to pack their bags?
a
I
fold.
I suspect the latter. I don't know what they could really. And that would be just one heck of a pregame speech by the coach to try to get them fired up in Denver,
Yeah.
to play well and to win that game when they're already 0-5.
It's
Yeah,
hard.
this.
And
I
they've
mean,
lost so many receivers.
yeah, they're beat up badly and psychologically beat up, and their coach is probably second guessing himself in terms of play calling and everything else. But or the offensive coordinator, whoever's calling the plays, is just doing a horrible job on offense. And we're favored by like 12 or 13 points. That scares me. I mean, I don't like being favored by that
I don't
much.
like being favored by that much either.
I know.
We overlooked the Bills too, and look what happened. I mean, Bills have turned out to be a pretty good team, but we overlooked them and we lost to them. So I don't like being favored. I don't like being favored by much anyway. Um, Now I think you're on to something a little bit when talking about they may just fold. I mean, just because this I mean 0-5 going into Denver. week 6 of the week 6 of the season. That's just. I mean, I can't. That sucks. I mean, I think you're gonna have a hard time getting Eli Manning to fold. But who's to say the rest of the team won't? You know.
Yeah.
I think Eli Manning. I think he's much like his brother in terms of he's not gonna quit. But at the same time, I mean that you gotta rile up 53 guys and coaches to go starting 0 and 5. Hey, let's try to win 10, 11 games in a row. I just That's hard. I mean, like you said, they have a good defense, good pass defense, especially. Former Bronco Rogers Camardi, Dominique Rogers Camardi, Janoris Jenkins. They have very good pass defense, especially. Good defense overall, but their offense. I mean, if you have to be able to score points in this league in order to win games. You can't score points, you're not going to win. And against this defense, their problems are bad enough against any defense, and then you play against Denver's defense.
Yeah.
What are you gonna
So
do?
listen, I'm going to break one of my own like cardinal rules and look past the Giants.
Don't do it.
I'm just telling you right now.
Don't do
I
it.
am looking past the Giants. So, and I'm also
If
going to
something
look.
happens in this game, I fully blame you. Just
Yeah.
so you know.
I am looking. I would encourage the Broncos to look past the Giants because,
Okay.
and and then I would almost encourage them to look past the next two games because we have the Giants and then we have the L.A. Chargers. I got it right. Now,
You
here's
can't get too cocky now. Come on.
well, I'm trying. I'm
You know
racing.
this.
I'm racing ahead because I'm thinking of good podcasting and trying to capture listeners' interest. But listen to this listen to this 5-game stretch. This is going to determine the season. October 30th at Kansas City, Monday night game.
Yeah.
Next week, a game I will see in person at Philly.
Philadelphia.
Week after that, we're back home against New England. Then we're at home against Cincinnati. Are they road games? Sorry. Yeah, sorry, they're home games. So on the road at KC, on the road at Philly, at home against New England, at home against Cincinnati, then on the road against Oakland. Those 5 games, I want you to tell me what our record is going to be. 5-game stretch: KC, Philadelphia, New England, Cincinnati, Oakland.
Those 5 games.
Yep.
Oh, good. I think we enter that 5 game stretch with one loss,
Yeah, I agree.
and then we go 3-2 in that 5 game stretch.
What games do we lose?
Um, Games that I think we lose are gonna be in Kansas City. They have an elite home field advantage as well
Yep.
as being a ridiculous good team.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lose that game, and then we lose on the road in Philly.
I
think we
agree.
beat Cincinnati. I think we beat New England. I think we beat Oakland.
We wholeheartedly agree. I think the KC game's winnable, we lose. Philly's winnable, we lose. Beat New England at home, beat Cincy at home, and we go on the road and beat Oakland 2 times this season. At that point, we will be 3,
At that-
5, 8-3. I think we'll be 8-3.
8-3, I believe.
Yep.
8-3.
And when's Kansas City going to lose?
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
By the way,
Well, I'm gonna look up their schedule as we speak because I need to look. This team needs to lose some games. I'm telling you, like, what is happening with this team right now? They play at home. So this week they play at home against Pittsburgh. They're gonna win that game. I'm sorry. They play. Oh my God, this is scary. They play at home against Pittsburgh. They play on the road against Oakland. They play at home against us. On the road against Dallas. Maybe they lose that game. They play on the road against New York Giants and at home at Buffalo. All
Listen,
of their hard games, all of the good teams they're playing for the most part are at home.
well, here's the thing. KC will not lose more than 3 games. Uh, Denver is probably not going to lose more than 5. I think
Yeah.
Casey's a slightly better team, particularly on offense. So, although they've sustained some injuries on both sides of the ball, but I think they're a better team right now. So it could come down to the final game of the season. We have them at home in Denver,
Yeah.
which could be a tiebreaker type situation. We'll see. I think Denver's going to stay close with them this year in the
I do think they're going
rankings.
to stay close.
But uh, real quick, I just want to make a general observation about the AFC. The AFC suddenly, it's like New England appears to be a good team, not a great team. Their
Their
defense
defense is
is terrible.
costing them everything. Yeah.
There's no way the all right. Please, I'm going to rephrase this.
Please rephrase that.
Highly unlikely the Patriots are going to win the AFC this year. They don't look like they have it. Pittsburgh is looking like a mediocre team. Ben Roethlisberger suddenly looks old. And then you have KC and you have Denver. I think KC and Denver right now, with KC being the number one team in the AFC. But other than Denver,
I think those two teams are the odds-on favorites to win the.
Yeah,
win
I
the
mean,
AFC this
who
year.
else do you see as a threat besides Denver to win in the AFC, to beat KC in the AFC?
I mean, I think you're right about New England. That they don't look like they're going to win it this year, but I don't ever count Tom Brady out. I've learned from that. I don't ever count him out. But I definitely think they're a tier below Kansas City and Denver right now. In terms of the way that they're playing. I don't see anyone else. I mean, Houston looks good with Deshaun Watson, but I don't think they have a chance at winning the AFC. Not with a rookie Deshaun Watson. As good as he's looked, I don't think they have a chance. Um, Oakland, they've only looked good against bad teams this year. Um, yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to Kansas City or Denver, uh, barring any kind of, unforeseen events that could take place, whether it be injuries um, or just collapses. I think it's got to be Denver or Kansas City. And I think we're going to know on, October 31st or October 30th, that game in Denver or in Kansas City, Denver and KC, we're going to know I think we're going to know a lot about where we're at that game.
Yeah. By the way, the strangest team, the team that's most difficult to get your head wrapped around, Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Let me just throw out a few scores. They start out by like crushing
They're hot and cold, man.
the Texans 29-7 week 1.
Yeah.
Then they turn around and get crushed by the Titans 37-16. Then the next week they turn around and crush the Ravens 44-7.
That's been
Then
nuts.
then they somehow lose to the Jets, and then last week they crushed the Steelers 30-9. But if
Hey,
you
don't look now, but the Jets are 3-2.
yeah, okay. Well,
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
well, and I think it gets to our larger point. The AFC is mediocre this year. But I'm telling you,
outside of the two top teams, they're
exactly.
very mediocre.
If the Jets can go 3-2, please. But I'm worried. I'm a little bit worried about the Jaguars. I'm glad we don't play them in the regular season. But I predict they're going to win the AFC South.
Yeah, the AFC South doesn't have much going for them because Texans, they lost J.J. Watt for the season, and they have a rookie quarterback as good as he's looked. I don't think that's sustainable. The Titans, Marcus Mariota is battling injury, and they've only looked mediocre even when he has played. And then the Colts, they're the Colts. So, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think there's a chance Jacksonville loses that division. I think
Hey, I know. By the way, Andrew Luck, man, the guy's he can't be feeling good right now.
no.
I mean, it's like, do I really have to, go back in and play for this team?
Well, it's just like when Peyton Manning was there. Peyton Manning had to do it all on his own, pretty much.
I
I mean, he
know.
had receivers, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, guys like that. Dwayne or Dallas Clark. He had guys to throw to, but they had historically bad defenses when he was there.
I think this is like you've heard the curse of the Bambino, which
I have.
that's the Boston Red Sox were cursed because
Yeah.
they traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees, and that curse resulted in the Red Sox not winning a World Series for like 100 years.
Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
I think the Colts are cursed for letting Manning go. I think that's a cursed franchise.
Oh God, you might be right, but you got to think when when the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth, it was fairly early in his career.
Oh, they didn't even trade him. They sold him to the Yankees.
Oh, did they sell him?
I don't even think they
I
got
didn't know
anything in
the.
return. The guy was a complete stud. He was like the best pitcher and the best hitter in baseball.
Yeah, but we do have to. That was fairly early in his career, at least relatively to. I mean, Peyton Manning left late in his career. You know, left Indianapolis. He played the majority of his career in India. It's not like Indianapolis was like, yeah, we don't want you. I think it was just so late in his career, and they got Andrew Luck.
Look at him
That's it.
now, my friend.
The
Look at him
team is
now.
just not good. Cursed though, I don't know. The team is just don't. They don't have the pieces.
They're
They don't have the
cursed.
pieces. I mean, you're convinced.
I think
You're
I'm convinced.
convinced.
I'm convinced they're cursed. All right, so listen to this. Babe Ruth played for Boston 1914, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So he was there 6 years.
6 years.
And like the final 3 years, he's hitting 325, 300, 322. He's crushing the RBIs, home runs. He's like a killer. And they trade him to the Yankees. And the first year for the Yankees was 1920. Now, admittedly, he went crazy for the Yankees. First year of the Yankees, he hits 376, then 378, then 393,
Good lord.
378. And by the way, this is with power. He's hitting these kind of averages.
Yeah.
Um, so the guy, that's why
I mean, the times were different, but that's still he was just absolutely ridiculous.
he was crazy. I mean, he was.
Absolutely ridiculous. Man, I would have loved to have lived during his period. Just
Oh
just
yeah.
just to
I
watch him
I
play.
had to throw that out there because it sounded like you were coming to the defense of the Red Sox. Like, man, maybe trading Ruth was. In hindsight, the Red Sox will tell you that they made a mistake. I believe if you asked them.
I would hope so. I mean, that's just that's just straight denial if you say you didn't make a mistake with that.
Make a mistake.
Oh God. Oh, so I know we talked about this a little bit off the air. Um I don't know if you remember I know you remember in the off season we were talking about who would you rather have at this point for the Broncos, Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles.
Yep.
Adrian Peterson just gets traded from the Saints to the Cardinals today, as a matter of fact. Um, obviously, listeners, you'll be hearing this at least, a day or two afterward, but got traded today, Tuesday. Man, I remember Ian. Ian was the one guy out of the three of us who was saying Adrian Peterson. Let's go get Adrian Peterson. And you and I were both saying Jamal Charles. And a big part of why we were saying Jamal Charles is because we have two games against Kansas City in which he's going to have that extra desire, that extra fire to go out and do well. But even aside from the Kansas, because we haven't played Kansas City yet this year, Jamal Charles, not even being a starter, has looked far and away better than what Adrian Peterson. I mean, Adrian Peterson's only got 27 carries on the year, and he has not looked good
Well, and
in New Orleans.
Peterson, I think, is at least a year older, maybe a year and a half older, and that matters when you're north of 30.
Yeah.
Um, so, Peterson is probably going to look back and on his career and say, you know what, I really should have retired as a Viking. I mean, this is an embarrassing tour. I mean, he's already Saints. And now he's with Cardinals, and the Cardinals look like one of the worst teams in the league right now. He's not going out on a high. He's not exactly pulling an Elway or a Manning here.
No. No, he's not. I mean, he's not playing for the right teams to do that. I mean, he's got to, if he wanted to go out on a high, sign with the Patriots or sign with, us in the offseason, obviously. We went Jamal Charles, and I'm glad we did. But if he wanted to go out on a high, or Falcons, or,
Well,
Packers.
yeah, but
Find a team that has a realistic chance.
he would have needed
You
one of
know.
those teams to want to sign him, and that's the problem. That's
Exactly.
that's why he
Exactly.
should have retired last year.
I don't think
But
he didn't get a lot of offers. He didn't get a lot
no,
of
no, he
offers.
didn't. He went.
I think when he found I'm not getting a lot of offers. I mean, but then again, it's just I think it's hard to take that desire to play away from guys. You know,
It
it's
is.
hard to take that desire. I mean, and you hear guys who have retired who talk about it, and it's so hard for them to walk away from the game. Not only because of the desire to play, but the camaraderie and all that. It's just hard for them to just walk away, especially because he thinks he can still do it. I don't think he feels like he's at a point where he's. I mean, he's only just over a year removed from a great season. I mean, he had his last year in with the Vikings was bad, but the year prior to that was very good. So, but he just hit a wall. Now, I think he'll be better with the Cardinals than he was with the Saints. A big part of that because of opportunity. I think he'll be better with the Cardinals, but I certainly don't see a huge turnaround.
No. So, just real quick, a trip down memory lane. The last time we played the New York Giants was September 15th, 2013.
We lost that game, didn't we?
No, no, no. We beat the
Okay.
Giants badly in New York.
Okay.
In New York, we beat them 41-23. I was watching that game with your brother Ian. There was
Yeah.
the one. What was there was a yes, there was a significant injury in that game for the Broncos.
Okay.
We lost our starting left tackle, Ryan Clady. It's the last time he
Oh,
ever suited up for the
for the
Broncos, I
Broncos.
believe.
Yeah.
And I was like so bummed out, even though we won the game. Of course, we still went to the Super Bowl that year, but we beat
Crushed in it.
we beat the Giants really badly last time we played them in New York. Just for those who may be wondering.
It was 2013.
That was 2013, September 15th, so second week of the season. We went 2-0 with that victory on our way to
Gotcha.
a Super Bowl appearance. Let me just say that appearance.
Appearance. You can't even really call it an appearance.
You know
It's
what?
almost, by
We were
default.
missing 6 starters on defense.
I
Listen,
know we were.
Seattle was
I know we were.
Seattle, quite frankly, was a better team. But if we would have had Von Miller didn't play, Chris Harris didn't play. Do I need to keep going on? I will.
No, I know. I
Derek
hear you.
Wolf
No,
didn't play.
I'm with you. I'm with you. That game would have been much more competitive with the guys that we would have had. But like you said, I think Seattle was at that point a better team.
Yeah.
We had a better offense, but we had guys missing. Number one, number two.
Number
Our defense was freakish.
number 2. That game did not start well for the Broncos. That could be the worst start, especially if your team has the ball on offense.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could have thrown a pick six. That might have been worse. But what a
I mean, it's just morale. I mean, let's not, dude. I don't want to go down that memory lane. That's a terrible memory lane. Yeah, that was. I mean, that it could this morale killer. I mean, everybody I think just got deflated just right off the bat. Anyways,
By the way, what was
I
the name? What was the name of the center who snapped that over the guy's head, over Manning's head?
was that not Matt Paradis?
Diaz, something. Diaz.
It was not Matt
David
Paradis.
Diaz. No,
No, I don't think it was Diaz. Give me one sec. I'm gonna find that information because you've made me curious. You have made me curious.
Yep, we lost our starting center that year. It was Dan Coppin, ruptured ACL
I
in
remember Dan Coppin.
in
That
training
sucks 'cause he
camp.
was good.
Correct. And then we had to go with. I think it's. Let's see, Diaz.
I'm gonna find it. Nope, it was Manny Ramirez.
All right, Manny Ramirez. I would
Manny
really.
Ramirez. He was a guard playing center out of necessity.
Yeah, and we traded that guy to the Lions the next season. I just the game was played in New York. There's a lot of gambling and gamblers and bad people in the area. You wonder if someone knocked on his hotel door the night before the Super Bowl and said, "Hey, We need you one play. Just one play. You've got to hike the ball in the end zone.
Play well the rest of the game. Just do that for us.
Just one play. That's all we're at. For $1 million for one hike over the head of the quarterback. Why wouldn't he take that? I don't know why there hasn't been a full scale investigation.
Okay, so and you also made me curious when you brought this up, but I wanna read the injuries that we had. Just the injured reserve players, just injured reserve. We had Derek Wolf out for that game, Kevin Vickerson, Raheem Moore, Von Miller, Dan Coppin, Chris Harris Jr., Ryan Clady, Quentin Carter. We were just demolished.
Yeah, we're demolished.
I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl team anymore because that was not really a Super Bowl team with the way that turned out. So let's move on. Let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped up here. Obviously, I know that you're predicting a win for the Broncos this weekend against the Giants. But let's see what kind of a score do you have. What's your prediction for Sunday Night Football against the Giants?
And real quick, I'll set this up. We're coming off a bye week.
Okay,
We have no injuries.
that's still
We're
such a good
playing
thing.
at home, and we're playing an 0-5 team that is decimated, at least on offense. So I don't think we've ever gone into a game with the odds more stacked in our favor. So it's impossible to predict a loss here. And if we do lose, holy cow, we might be in real trouble. But I'm going to go with 27-7 Broncos victory.
I like it. I like that. I'm gonna go slightly different. The way things are going, I do not expect them to score an offensive touchdown, and I'm not gonna predict them to get a defensive touchdown. Not at least not at this point. So I'm gonna say my prediction for this game, pretty substantial victory. I'm thinking 31-9.
Okay. Well, we best pretty much blow out
Yeah,
City, both of our predictions.
yeah, 31 to
And
9.
then and then that takes us to 4-1. Then we go on the road and beat San Diego, and then we start the difficult 5 game stretch we referred to earlier.
Yeah, that 5 game stretch is a little bit scary, but if we're the team that I think we are, we'll win more games than we lose during that stretch. That's the goal. All right, so
That would be the goal.
obviously Ian could not join us this week, which is unfortunate. He's having some computer issues. He's going to be back with us as soon as he gets that fixed up. So um, I know he agrees with us on a lot of these topics. I talked to him not an hour before we recorded this, so I know he's on the same page with a lot of this stuff that we talked about. So um, please excuse my runny nose, my stuffy nose. Uh, from Kevin, from myself, we are hoping and believing for a pretty dominant win for the Broncos this weekend, and we hope that you'll watch with us on Sunday night. We'll talk to you guys next week.